Japan runs on transparency. Bullet trains announced to the second. Government websites that actually work. A bureaucracy so methodical it has been studied by other governments as a model. And underneath all of that, a parallel Japan that has been quietly hiding things for centuries. Secret government bunkers. A spy agency that officially didn't exist until 2001. A facility where the government conducted experiments on human beings and then cut a deal with the Americans to make sure nobody ever stood trial. Imperial vaults that no living person has been inside. These are 17 places in Japan you are not allowed to see. Stay until number 1, because there is a facility in Japan where the most important military decisions of the final year of World War II were made, decisions that killed hundreds of thousands of people, and it sits underneath a high school. The students play volleyball on the roof of Japan's wartime nerve center. They have no idea. Misawa Air Base, NSA Station, Aomori. Misawa Air Base sits in northern Honshu, about 640 kilometers north of Tokyo. On the surface, it is a joint facility. Japan Air Self-Defense Force and the United States Air Force, operational since 1945, not particularly secret in itself. What is classified is what else is there. In 2017, a joint investigation by The Intercept and NHK revealed that Misawa hosts a signals intelligence facility operated by the NSA, one node in a global surveillance network that intercepts communications across Asia, Russia, and the Pacific. The facility's capabilities were detailed in documents leaked by Edward Snowden and confirmed through additional reporting. Japan's government was aware. Japan's public was not. The legal framework that allows a foreign intelligence agency to operate on Japanese soil and collect signals intelligence, including, potentially, on Japanese citizens, has never been publicly debated in the Japanese parliament. This is not the most dramatic place on this list. It is the most current one. The surveillance is not historical. It is happening right now. From a base in Aomori Prefecture that you cannot approach and whose full capabilities have never been publicly disclosed by either government. Imperial Navy Underground HQ, Yokohama. On a hillside in Yokohama, overlooking an athletic field where high school students play volleyball, there is an inconspicuous entrance that leads down a slope and into Japan's secret Imperial Navy headquarters in the final months of World War II. Here, in concrete tunnels beneath the Keio University campus, Japan's Navy leaders made the decisions that killed hundreds of thousands of people in the war's final year. They planned the battles of Leyte Gulf, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa from these tunnels. They knew the moment kamikaze pilots crashed to their deaths, when the radio signal from the aircraft stopped. They received the cables from the battleship Yamato as it came under American fire and sank off southern Japan. The facility was secret until 2015, when the school opened it to media for the first time, the 70th anniversary of the war's end. The assistant headmaster who led the tour described the tunnels this way. It's a negative heritage that humans made. It's the perpetrator's legacy. Just imagine the massive number of people who had to die in the final year of the war because of decisions made in these rooms. The students who play volleyball above do not learn about this in class. The school considers it an ongoing discussion about what to do with the ground they stand on. Matsushiro Restricted Sections, Nagano. In November 1944, with American B-29s bombing Japanese cities and an Allied ground invasion looking inevitable, Japan began digging. Under 5 mountains in the Matsushiro area of Nagano, chosen partly because military planners described local residents as naive people who would not ask questions, they excavated 10 kilometers of tunnels. The plan? If the emperor needed to leave Tokyo, an armored train would bring him here. The government would relocate. The military would command from underground. The war would continue. Under Mount Maizuru, the imperial headquarters. Under Mount Saijo, military communications. Under Mount Zozan, all government ministries, NHK Broadcasting, the Central Telephone Network. Under Mount Minakami, the imperial family's residences. under Mount Kobo, the imperial sanctuary. 5 mountains, 1 underground country. Between 7,000 and 10,000 Korean laborers were forced to build it. Estimates of deaths during construction, around 1,500. Japan surrendered before it was finished. Some sections have been opened to the public. The sections under Mount Maizuru, the ones that contain what was meant to be the emperor's private chambers, are not open to the public. The tunnels are currently collapsed and in disrepair, the official site says. What the official site does not say is what documentation was destroyed when Japan surrendered. What decisions were made in those rooms that no longer have any record attached to them. The open tunnels are genuinely worth visiting. What you are not seeing is the part that was never meant to be found. CIRO, Cabinet Intelligence and Research Office. Japan has a spy agency. For most of its history, the Japanese government declined to describe it as one. The Cabinet Intelligence and Research Office, CIRO, was established in 1952. For nearly 50 years, it operated without formal legal authorization as an intelligence agency. No legislation defined its mandate. No parliamentary oversight body monitored it. Its budget was classified within other line items. Its personnel were officially government researchers and analysts. In 2001, Japan reorganized its intelligence structure, formally acknowledging what CIRO was and establishing a Director of Cabinet Intelligence to lead it. The 2013 designated state secrets law, which made the leak of classified information punishable by up to 10 years in prison, gave CIRO and Japan's other agencies legal cover that had previously been improvised. What CIRO does today remains largely opaque. Its budget is not fully public. Its personnel numbers are not disclosed. Its collection methods and foreign relationships are not discussed. Japan, constitutionally committed to pacifism since 1947, built and maintained a functioning spy service for half a century before it officially admitted that's what it was. The building exists in Tokyo. The work continues. You will not be told what it is. Yonaguni Military Base, Okinawa. Yonaguni is the westernmost point of Japan. It sits 111 kilometers from Taiwan, closer to Taipei than to the nearest Japanese city. The island has about 1,700 permanent residents. It is known for the Yonaguni horse, a small native breed, and for the underwater rock formation that some researchers believe may be a man-made ancient structure. In 2016, Japan opened a ground self-defense force base on the island. The stated reason? Surveillance of Chinese naval activity in the surrounding waters. The unstated reason? Taiwan. Yonaguni is close enough to Taiwan that on a clear day you can see the mountains. The base houses radar systems and missile defense infrastructure. Its full capabilities are not publicly disclosed. In 2024, Japan announced plans to expand military infrastructure across the Nansei Island chain, the arc of islands stretching from Kyushu toward Taiwan, as part of a defense buildup responding to Chinese military activity. Yonaguni is the leading edge of that arc. The civilians who live there were not consulted about the decision to place them at the front of whatever comes next. The base is closed to outside visitors. The proximity to Taiwan is not. Imperial Household Agency Archives, Tokyo. The Imperial Household Agency controls Japan's imperial archives. These include documents from the Meiji, Taisho, Showa, and Heisei eras, private correspondence, official records, and documentation of the imperial family's role in the decisions that led Japan into and through World War II. Historians have been requesting access to these archives for decades. The Imperial Household Agency has declined virtually all such requests. The most consequential gap: documents related to Emperor Hirohito's knowledge of and involvement in wartime decisions. Unit 731, the Nanjing Massacre, the decision to continue fighting past the point of obvious defeat. The question of what the emperor knew, when he knew it, and what he decided is not fully answerable with publicly available records. Some documents were burned at the time of Japan's surrender. Others are in the archives. Those in the archives are not accessible to outside researchers. Japan cannot fully account for the decisions of its own government during the most consequential period of its history, because the records belong to an institution that has decided they are private. Imperial Navy Command Bunker, Tokyo, Ichigaya. The Ministry of Defense campus in Ichigaya, Tokyo, sits on the site of the former Imperial Army headquarters. This is where Japan's wartime military command issued orders throughout the Pacific War. The main building from that era, the Ichigaya Memorial Hall, is preserved and occasionally open for tours. It is also where the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal held its proceedings from 1946 to 1948, convicting 25 Japanese leaders, 7 of whom were executed. What is not on the tour? The underground facilities that run beneath the current Defense Ministry campus. Their extent is not publicly mapped. Their current use is not publicly stated. The self-defense forces occupy a campus built on top of the literal command structure that ordered Japan's conduct in World War II. How much of that infrastructure remains below ground and what it is used for is classified. What the visitor sees: a preserved building from 1937 with a plaque about the War Crimes Tribunal. What the visitor does not see: whatever is underneath it. Okunoshima, Hiroshima, restricted research records. Okunoshima is now famous for rabbits, hundreds of them. Tourists visit specifically to feed them. It is one of the more photographed animal experiences in Japan. Between 1929 and 1945, the island was erased from maps. The Japanese military had chosen it for the production of chemical weapons, mustard gas, phosgene, lewisite, because its location in the Seto Inland Sea made it difficult to approach undetected. The island produced over 6,000 tons of chemical agents. Workers were not told what they were making. Many developed serious health conditions. Many died. After Japan's surrender, the Allied occupation forces destroyed most of the production facilities and disposed of the chemical stockpiles, some by dumping into the sea around the island. Japan's government classified the records of the island's wartime production for decades after the war. Former workers and their families spent years unable to seek compensation because the government would not acknowledge what had been made there, what they had been exposed to, or that any of it had happened. Compensation was eventually paid. The full extent of the chemical disposal, how much remains in the seafloor, what its current state is, has not been publicly confirmed. The rabbits now living on the island are descended from animals brought there by visitors after the war. The chemical weapons records are in archives. Most of them are still classified. Yokota Air Base, Tokyo, NSA operations. Yokota Air Base sits in the Tama region of western Tokyo. Technically, it is Tokyo. The base covers over 7 square kilometers in the middle of Japan's capital prefecture. The Air Force operates from here. What else operates from here was documented in the Snowden files and confirmed by the Intercept on NHK investigation. A SIGINT, Signals Intelligence, facility collecting communications data across the region. Japan's government knew. What remains unclear is the arrangement under which a foreign intelligence agency collects signals intelligence on Japanese soil, potentially including intelligence on Japanese citizens and politicians, and shares some but not all of what it collects with the Japanese government it's allegedly helping. The full terms of that arrangement are classified. You can drive past Yokota. The fence is visible from the road. What happens inside is a matter between two governments that have agreed not to discuss it publicly. Unit 731, Classified Records. Unit 731 is the most documented atrocity in Japanese history that Japan has never formally prosecuted. Between 1933 and 1945, a facility in Japanese-occupied Manchuria conducted experiments on human beings. Chinese, Korean, Russian, American prisoners of war, testing biological and chemical weapons, the effects of extreme temperature and pressure, surgery without anesthesia, vivisection, deliberate infection with plague and cholera. The facility killed an estimated 3,000 to 12,000 people. The true number is unknown because records were destroyed. After Japan's surrender, the Truman administration made a decision that has never been fully explained. The researchers of Unit 731 would not be prosecuted for war crimes. In exchange, the United States received the data from the experiments, biological warfare research, that the American military could not legally conduct on its own citizens and which, it was reasoned, would take decades to replicate. The arrangement was kept secret. The Japanese researchers returned to civilian life. Several became prominent physicians, university professors, and executives of pharmaceutical companies. None stood trial. The classified American files documenting this arrangement were partially declassified in the 1990s. The Japanese government's owned records on Unit 731, what the government knew, when it knew it, what it destroyed before surrender, have never been fully disclosed. In 2002, a Tokyo court formally acknowledged that Japan had conducted biological warfare in China. No individual was held responsible. The data purchased with immunity sits in American archives. The complete record of what was done, and by whom under whose orders, does not exist publicly in any country's files. Imperial Palace Underground Facilities, Tokyo. The Imperial Palace occupies 3.4 square kilometers in the center of Tokyo. Most of the grounds are not accessible to the public. 2 days per year, January the 2nd and the Emperor's birthday, parts of the inner grounds are opened for formal visits. Under the palace complex, facilities that have never been publicly described. During World War II, an imperial shelter was constructed beneath the palace grounds, a reinforced underground space intended to protect the emperor during American bombing raids. It was used. Emperor Hirohito spent portions of 1945 in underground facilities beneath the palace. The post-war fate of those facilities, whether they were demolished, repurposed, or expanded, is not a matter of public record. The Imperial Household Agency, which administers the palace grounds, does not discuss the underground infrastructure of the complex. Requests from historians and journalists for information about the wartime shelters have not been answered. What is under the center of Tokyo, under the most prime real estate in Japan, under the residence of the imperial family, is simply not disclosed. The above-ground palace is visible from the road. The moat reflects the city around it. What is beneath it remains the emperor's private information. Pearl Harbor Decision Archives, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The decision to attack Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, involved years of diplomacy, internal debate, and a final sequence of decisions in the summer and fall of 1941. Some of those records are in Japanese archives. Not all of them are public. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs maintains classified files from the pre-war period that historians have been requesting for decades. The specific focus of ongoing requests: communications between Tokyo and Washington in the weeks before the attack, the internal debate about whether to continue negotiations or proceed, and the question of whether certain diplomatic signals were deliberately ambiguous to allow the attack to proceed while maintaining the appearance of ongoing talks. The question has never been fully resolved to the satisfaction of historians on either side of it. Part of the reason: the relevant documents are in controlled archives. The ministry releases records on a schedule it determines. The most sensitive pre-war diplomatic files have been released selectively. What remains classified and why those specific documents have not yet been released has not been explained. National Security Council Emergency Facilities, Tokyo. Japan's National Security Council was established in 2013. Its emergency facilities, the equivalent of America's Mount Weather, the spaces where Japanese government would continue to function in the event of a major attack or disaster, are not publicly described. Japan's 2011 experience with the Fukushima disaster revealed significant problems with the government's crisis management infrastructure. The response was disorganized. Communication between agencies broke down, and the Prime Minister's office had inadequate facilities for sustained emergency operation. What was built afterward to address those failures is classified. Japan is a country that sits on the most seismically active region on Earth. It faces ballistic missile threats from North Korea. It has a maritime dispute with China over the Senkaku Islands that has escalated repeatedly. The facilities designed to ensure the Japanese government survives any of those scenarios are not a matter of public knowledge. The location, the capacity, the infrastructure, none of it is publicly documented. In a country as transparent as Japan claims to be, the absence of any public information about its own continuity of government planning is its own kind of statement. Fukushima Daiichi. Classified TEPCO government documents. On March 11, 2011, 3 reactors at Fukushima Daiichi experienced meltdowns. The public story? A natural disaster caused an unprecedented failure that the government and TEPCO managed as effectively as possible under impossible circumstances. The classified story, portions of which have emerged through document leaks, court cases, and parliamentary investigations. TEPCO's internal communications in the first 72 hours after the earthquake show. Executives and government officials discussing the situation in terms that did not match what they were saying publicly. A 2012 government investigation described the disaster as fundamentally man-made, the result of regulatory failures and a corporate culture that prioritized economics over safety. The internal TEPCO documents from the decision-making period remain partially under corporate confidentiality. The communications between the Prime Minister's office and TEPCO in the critical hours when seawater injection, the action that might have prevented the worst of the meltdowns, was allegedly ordered, stopped, and restarted under political pressure. Those communications have been the subject of ongoing litigation. Some have been released, others have not. The full picture of who decided what, when they decided it, and what they knew before they decided, is not available to the public whose land, water, and health were affected by those decisions. Koyasan Inner Sanctum Archives, Wakayama. Koyasan has been a center of Japanese Buddhism since the monk Kukai established it in 819 CE. The temple complex that grew around his teaching has operated continuously for 100 to 200 years. The innermost sanctuaries and the archives that document 12 centuries of Japanese religious, political, and cultural history are controlled by the Koyasan Shingon sect and are not accessible to outside researchers. What is in those archives? Correspondence between the temples and every major political power in Japanese history. The Heian court, the samurai clans, the Tokugawa shogunate, the Meiji government. Koyasan was the religious institution that all of them maintained relationships with. That correspondence documents decisions, alliances, and events that official government records do not contain, because the government records were often destroyed while the temple kept its copies. Historians who have formally requested access have been told that the documents are religious property and not subject to research access requirements. The Okunoin Cemetery at Koyasan, where Kukai is said to be in eternal meditation, contains the graves of every major figure in Japanese history. Tokugawa Ieyasu is buried here. So is Toyotomi Hideyoshi. So are the founders of most of Japan's major corporations, who arranged in advance to be buried near the monk who they believed still meditates in the mausoleum at the end of the path. The mausoleum is not open. The archives of the institution that has watched Japanese history for 12 centuries are not open. What Koyasan knows that no one else does is not a matter for public inquiry. Matsushiro, Imperial Chamber Section. We return to Matsushiro because the tunnels that are open to tourists are not the part of the story that cannot be told. Under Mount Maizuru, in a section that is not on the tourist route, is a Japanese-style room. Cypress wood. Traditional construction. Built in 1944 by Korean forced laborers who were not told what they were building or for whom. It was intended to be the emperor's private chambers, the room where Hirohito would sleep if Tokyo fell. The emperor who, according to official post-war history, was a passive figurehead with no real authority over Japan's military decisions, had a bedroom carved into a mountain by people who died to build it because someone decided he would need it. The room exists. The section it's in is described by the official site as not open to the public, no explanation is given. The Japanese-style room, built for an emperor who was never meant to need it and was officially not responsible for the war that made it necessary, sits in a mountain in Nagano. Empty, closed, for reasons that are not stated. Imperial Navy Tunnel HQ, the decision rooms. We come back to the tunnels under Keio School, not to repeat them, to finish them. In those tunnels in Yokohama, Japan's naval command made the decisions that defined the final year of the Pacific War. The decision to continue the Battle of Leyte Gulf, the largest naval battle in history, after it was clear Japan would lose it. The decision to deploy kamikaze pilots as a systematic strategy, young men instructed to fly their planes into American ships. The decision to continue resisting into 1945 when Japan's cities were being burned from the sky and surrender was the rational choice. Those decisions were made in those tunnels by men whose names are in the history books. The tunnels themselves sat unknown beneath the school for 70 years. The students who played on the surface had no idea. When the school finally opened the tunnels for a single media visit in 2015, the assistant headmaster said something that stayed with the journalists who were there. This is a negative heritage. It is the perpetrator's legacy. He did not say, "This is history we are proud of." He did not say, "Come visit." He said, "This exists. Someone should know it is here." Japan has places it is proud to show you, and places it has spent decades, centuries, not showing anyone. The tunnels under a school in Yokohama are both at the same time. You cannot go in, but now you know they are there.